Hello there, my name is Elaine Midgley and I'm the Director of Bedford Creative Arts. Welcome to today's skills sharing session, which I'm doing as part of the Culture Challenge programme that we've put together, providing a number of different skills for you to explore. This one I'm going to be talking about networking and pitching, and I hope it's going to be a useful confidence booster for you. So we're going to look at networking in two areas really. One of them is what networking is, which I think is the whole process of building and maintaining relationships with professionals that can be useful to you. And the other thing more specifically is going to be looking at how you make the most of networking events and pitching at people when you're at events like that or talking to them, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of networking. So I wanted to look a little bit at what is networking. Now, this is very much my professional opinion based on my experiences. I don't profess to be a particular expert, although I've done a hell of a lot of this. But I think one of the things that people sometimes do is they think that networking is just going along to networking events. And actually, it's a process. So this little diagram I've created explains what I think that process is. And it starts off by actually being prepared before you start going out and networking and making sure you're going to be visible and contactable when people meet you. The other thing is then, of course, that process of going out and reaching out to people, which of course includes networking events, but can include other things. But you also need to remember to maintain those relationships and use them to grow your network. And that's how you keep the cycle going. And there are certain tools and events that will help you to do that. So I'm going to talk you through each one of these sections in turn and make sure we keep that cycle turning. So being visible and contactable is just about being prepared for the fact that people are probably going to look you up when you meet them after you've met them, whether you've given them your website and you want to steer them to content you'd like them to see or not. So one thing you could do is actually just Google yourself. Other search engines are available, but I do think it's worth you just realising what is out there and making sure that your marketing and promotion are ready to go. So think about, do you want a website or not? There's pros and cons of that. Do look at social media, and there's a session in this series by Louise which covers some of those things. Do you want business cards to hand out to people at networking events or other literature? So just think about the sorts of marketing and promotion that might be helpful to you, and make sure you're responsive to inquiries when they come in, because your reputation is going to be paramount and people might reach out to you and try and network with you, and you need to be ready to respond to them. So get all that ready to go before you go out and start reaching out to people. So then you're ready to go out and meet people, which could include things like networking events, and we'll speak about that in a moment. But you want to do a bit of research beforehand and think about, where are you going to find the people you want to reach out to? So yes, head teachers and teachers, where do they hang out? Where can you go and meet them? What are they reading, watching, listening to? And where do you need to go to get in front of them? So do a bit of research first. And also think about other people who aren't teachers who might be able to help you network with those such people. So have cups of coffee with people. Go and find out. People like Helen O'Hara at the Culture Challenge. She might have had a cup of coffee with you and been free to share her information with you about it. But find out what they know and can they introduce you to people. Also do use social networks, and I'm going to be a bit of an advocate for LinkedIn here. I think it's an underutilised network for the cultural sector, but I really think we can't ignore it. So there is actually some evidence to suggest that CVs are going out of fashion in other sectors and people are just going to use their LinkedIn profile. It's a really good way of people finding out about you without you having to have a whizzy website, which might actually cost quite a bit of money. So if you get your profile up to date, they'll be able to find out about you, they'll be able to see what your experiences are, whether you've got a DBS check, your training, you can put all of that on there, but you can also put every single experience you've done that might be relevant to a school. So for example, if you've done a workshop for Shortstown Primary School, you could put it under your experience and say what you did, and it will begin to become a fantastic repository for all the information about what you do, and it will come up really high on search ratings. So if people do search for you in a search engine by name, your LinkedIn profile is very likely to come up very highly. So it's a quick way of being able to keep in touch with you, and they don't need to have your email address. And people can see who else you're networked with, which gives you credibility. So people will be able to see, you know that person, you know that person. They're interesting people to know. So perhaps this person is credible after all. And then you can use that to encourage people to help you use a phone call, an email, and get them to reintroduce you to the people you're trying to get to. So everyone's very keen to know how they can get the most out of networking events. And one of them is to think about where you're going and why you're going. So is it to meet someone specific? Is it to meet lots of different people? And don't be afraid when you go to networking events of meeting people who you might not thought of as useful. You never know who they know. And so connecting with them will be no bad thing. They might be able to introduce you to some very interesting people after all. But prepare yourself before you go, and that can include everything from thinking about what you're going to wear. But you do need to be confident. You need to be able to go up to someone and just introduce yourself. Don't be afraid. They're all in the same boat in that room. So do just feel like you can go up there and practice if necessary. But when you're talking to people, listen to what they're saying. So don't go straight in with the pitch, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Listen first and think about what's interesting to them. Is there something that you can say that's going to respond to something they've already said to you, and that just might pique their interest? And try and get their contact details, whether that's a business card or an email address. And don't be afraid to ask very directly for that. People will be quite willing to say, absolutely, here's my card, or you can reach me in this way. So just ask. So pitching, as part of that conversation, you might pitch your idea to someone. And again, as I've said before, listen first. Is there a problem that you're going to solve for them? So if your idea is all about, say, dance, don't go in there and introduce yourself as a dance artist who can solve all their problems in a particular way. Listen first and see if there's something that you can make a connection for them between what they want to get out of their challenges at the moment in their school and what it is you can offer, and tailor your communication. So the chameleon is on this slide because actually there's a bit of an element of behaving the way they would like you to behave. So if they are bubbly and chatty, then you being bubbly and chatty back might well build rapport. But if they're a bit straight and tight-lipped and professional, then just think about how your language and your communication style might match theirs, and they're more likely to be receptive to listening to you. The important thing is that once you've developed your network, you need to keep those relationships going. So don't forget about people. If they've given you their business card or something, do remember to follow up the next day with that conversation and keep it going. Think of reasons to get in touch with them, send them information, invite them to things that you're doing. But the key thing to remember is that if you invite them to your things, you must turn up to theirs. So in terms of schools, are there fairs, fetes, activities, fundraising events going on where you can go? Not only will you be able to network at them, but you'll show your face and you'll show that you're genuinely interested in what they're about, and that will go really far, and they're likely to do the same. And you can promote that on things like LinkedIn, as we've talked before about. A little note on data protection here: if people are giving you their contact details, do make sure they know how you're going to contact them and why, and that you keep those details safe. But this is all about making sure you keep that communication going. So once you've got this lovely network, you'll realise that you can use connections to build other connections. So again, you can research people you might want to reach out to. And by using things like, again, LinkedIn, you can look people up by that platform and see if you know someone who's linked to them who might be able to introduce you. And what you'll realise is that by asking people to do introductions, you can begin to grow your network. And this is where it's important to not just be networked with people you might consider clients, like teachers and schools, but even peers, other artists, people who work in the council, the Arts Council, people who can be useful to you for allowing you to grow your network by connections themselves, building further connections. So there we are. So that's what I mean by networking being a process. It begins with you making sure that you're marketing yourself well and you're visible and people can contact you easily. You then reach out to other people, you keep those relationships going. That will allow you to grow your network, and then you can go back to things like LinkedIn, like social media, like your website, like events, to keep that cycle going. So that's me, Elaine Midgley, Director of Bedford Creative Arts. You've got the office number on there and my email address as well. Well, thank you for listening. I hope that was useful. Please do feel free to contact me if you'd like to ask me any questions or you'd like me to follow up on something that I didn't cover today. And I hope you enjoy looking at the other resources on the website. There's lots of useful things on there, so please do look at them all as part of this Culture Challenge series. Good luck with your networking.